New York and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
T-Bro in the morning, beautiful Laura Styles. Rosenberg, I think, is on a wrestling assignment. I want y'all to give it up for my friend Michael Blake and Alfre Woodard. Wow, unexpected. Wait. So I'm gonna start with her. We talk to you all the time.
It's fine. It's fine. That's how friends treat you. It's okay.
What I mean? This is a big name right here.
I'm clear.
Wait, how are you and Michael Blake affiliated?
Yes, and related. He's my good brother. Mike and I first met at the very top, coming out of the gates when Obama announced, and we were in the snows of Iowa together, driving around in a minivan around the state.
Oh, wow.
And eating Slim Jims and looking for an avocado. So you learn a lot about somebody driving around Iowa in a minivan.
Slim Jim. Snapping in the Slim Jim.
I'm just saying sometimes.
So I did both campaigns with him when he was in charge of just scores of disparate personalities from all around the country, all these fired up people that came to work, and then how he dealt with them and all of the Iowans of every stripe and persuasion. I watched him do incredible work, and he was highly effective and respected. I saw him take that into the administration, and so when he came back home to the Bronx, running for assembly, I said, I'm with you. I'll come wherever you are. I was in the wilderness of British Columbia. Just now I'm shooting a big new series for Apple, and you know, it is beautiful and stunning and lots of bears and all every day. But he said, hey, you know, what you doing? This is what I've got up. And I said, I'd be there. Here I am.
So
that's amazing.
you left working on a big new series to come support Michael Blake's run for public advocate here in the city. We've talked to Michael Blake several times just about the goings-on. And first, proud of you. Glad you're making this transition.
Appreciate that.
You know, it's very interesting in the city, right? Because, you know, we have a mayor that's liked-ish sometimes.
Something.
Right? I like him mostly, but there's things, obviously, with every politician that you're not going to find. There's no perfect humans. There's no perfect politician.
You don't like me as a politician?
I'm sure I could find something I don't like. I haven't looked.
For the most part, you're good with it.
But
Okay.
yeah.
For the most part.
I'm just
Look,
saying.
man,
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that.
There's no thing, right? There's no thing is perfect. But public advocate, why are you making this move?
Because we got to go help more people. You know, we watching games happen in the city, and if the trains are always late, if housing's a problem, especially in public housing, if folks are figuring out how they're gonna get their kids to school, this can't continue. And the reality is the dislike between Cuomo and de Blasio should not lead to us not helping people.
That's right.
So we real clear, our vision is jobs and justice for the people. And so, you know, we want to make sure we get on the MTA board to be able to be that voice so that the trains and buses can run on time.
Okay.
You know, we think people should be held criminally liable at NYCHA because if you lie about people having lead in their blood, you should go to jail.
Absolutely.
You know, I think at the end of the day, we should be building schools, not jails. I mean, this is the big vision we're trying to have. And we've never had a citywide special election before. So February 26th is a chance to be able to send a message. We've never done this before. Never had a citywide special.
I did not know that.
You know, see, so I showed you something, Ebro.
No, but that doesn't make you perfect now. I'm trying to work.
I was
Just
trying.
don't
I was
work
working.
me right now.
I was doing so good.
Not right now,
Okay.
man. Not right now. Now there's a crowded field of some people with some names that people know. Jumani, right? You're up against who I think is a colleague of yours.
He's in the city council. We're in the state assembly.
Yeah, he's a friend of the show. Somebody who I think has been working in the community a long time.
Been doing work.
Melissa Mark, how do you say her last name?
Viverito.
Viverito, who's been working, right? And then the young lady who we worked with for the bail system, mass bailout.
Well, she's not in it. She's a dear friend, but she's not running anymore.
She's not running anymore. She stepped out. Okay.
So it's just you three for now.
Well, there's a lot of people, but there's only one Michael Blake.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
It's insane. I mean,
Well, my point was, what makes you more qualified than the other candidates?
well, I mean, the vision that we have, city, state, and federal, you know, you can't watch what's going on with the nonsense of Trump and not see the impact of what's happening here. You know, when we think about what have we worked on for raise the age so that 16, 17-year-olds not going to jail, criminal responsibility, the My Brother's Keeper program to help these boys and young men of color, we've been doing the work. And whoever wins on February 26th, you don't have some time to play around. You got to get going immediately. You know, we think about on public housing. You know, I was the one that testified to say this is unacceptable what's going on. You know, the city lied about it.
Yeah,
and
they
I
did.
think anyone that was there that didn't step up when it comes to these kids having lead, anyone that wasn't focused on what happened to public transportation, I don't think they should be in the seat. We got a lot of friends, but friends are not enough.
So
We need
my
leaders.
question with a lot, and this is government, period, right? Politicians, that's what they do for a living. And often contract, like what we saw with NYCHA was, the mayor's office contracted with someone who was supposed to give them information, and the people they hired failed. So that falls on the mayor and his team. And to cover up their failure, they lied in layman's terms, right? They didn't want to admit that they hired the wrong people to get them the information so instead they lied.
Even worse than that, they knew the numbers were higher of how many kids had elevated lead, and they didn't say that.
There you go.
Right? And so, they said it was 19 kids. It actually was 212 kids. It started in the Melrose Housing Art District, and it was in Brooklyn. And I just think you just got to question the humanity of a person. Like, who lies about someone having lead in their blood, right? And that's the reason why we're running. We've been doing the work in the South Bronx, but, we were in Harlem recently. We're going to be in Brooklyn. We want people across the city to see that this is a vision of jobs and justice, that's not just a hashtag. That's a real vision for me.
And what is beyond the convo and bringing attention to things, what is the job of the public advocate?
First in line to the mayor. If anything happens to the mayor, public advocate becomes mayor of New York City. You sit on the pension board. There's 11 people that decide what happens to public pension for New York. You introduce legislation to city council. And one thing I said is immediately, I think we should take away tax credits for landlords that are not implementing rent stabilization. Why should they make money on the backs of black and brown folk if they're not helping people keep their home? You are the oversight on agencies, so NYCHA and housing preservation and Department of Education, all these different pieces. So you are the voice for the city. And when the position was created in '89, it was to make sure that you had a person of color to citywide because it wasn't happening before. So if you care about what's going on with the trains, with housing, with education, or anything happening in your life, it's supposed to go to the public advocate's office. And that's why we're trying to run. And honestly, we want people to know that, we got a lot of drama that's happening out here, but we can rise over this, right? Like, we got to show people that there's something bigger and better happening in the city. And I think what's going on is there's so much conflict that people are not looking at. You know what? A brother from the Bronx, son of Jamaican immigrants, 1199 SCIU, went to work for the White House and came back home. I didn't do that just for my own good. I did that because I want to help people, period.
Now, is this if you're registered to vote, you're good to go, right? You can just go ahead.
Registered to vote. The question is, we missing a vote. Where is Rosenberg?
He had we got multiple jobs. We're working.
I'm Jamaican.
people.
I know about multiple jobs.
So he got pulled away for another thing.
But the last time he was here, he was just doing the thing with watching dogs or something like that.
Yeah, but it's a different conversation about attention deficit and what I mean.
But Michael, I will tell you this, that for the average person, right, they're not always educated in everything that's going on. So I do think it's important that you break down exactly what the position is and and make it as easiest as possible for people to understand where they can go vote.
That's right.
For more information, where can they find out their polling places? Is this just when we vote for any other office?
Straight up. So wherever you already vote is the same place you go vote on February 26th.
Will the machines work?
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm running, to make sure the machines are working. I got to get elected first, Ebro.
I'm just asking, bro. This is what I need to know, bro.
That's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, I mean, what was going on out in Brooklyn was just, it was a fiasco. We had it
Yo,
in
man,
Bronx,
it's
too.
like,
it was crazy.
We can front like America's this advanced technology. We can't even get simple voting right in our country.
No, period.
For us to act all high and mighty like we got it all figured out for the rest of the world.
But they didn't train the workers. It was a lot of nonsense.
Alfre, you heard about that? Here in Brooklyn?
Brooklyn. I didn't hear about that.
People were lined up on voting day.
Wait, yes, I did.
And the machines
just
didn't
last
work.
November.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. But yes, it won't fixed. Yes, go vote in the same spots you're at. Blake for NYC.com to find out information on where you can go. But to your point, that's the reason why having Alfre, matters, because having her voice as an actor, as a celebrity, it gets people to pay attention. They're not paying attention. A lot of folks have no idea that a citywide election's coming up, So we go into rooms and okay, Alfre's going to be there. All right, now let's have the conversation about, well, how do I get involved? And what does the public advocate do? And how do you actually make these things happen? So wherever you usually vote, go vote in that same place. As long as you're registered, Democrat, Republican, no matter, you can go vote. You want information, go to our website, blakefornyc.com. We'll show you how you got to get more involved.
And on that ballot, it won't say Democrat or Republican because the public advocate is a nonpartisan job. The public advocate his party is the people and the people. Being there. So it is having somebody in the rooms where it happens, having somebody there to actually troubleshoot for the specific needs of New Yorkers, everyday needs.
And what's your connection? You live in New York. What's your connection to New York City?
I work in New York. I get paid in New York a lot.
Luke Cage, you was in New York a lot.
And I have a home in Harlem.
Yeah.
But even if it wasn't that, I am, I was an activist before I discovered I was an artist.
Wow.
When I was a young teenager. And you can't tell people's stories without caring about the people, who they are. That would be hypocritical. So if you are an artist, a true artist, your job doesn't stop when you just, tell a tale however you want people affected. You're coming into their homes all the time. They think of you as a part of their everyday existence. And if amplifying somebody who is speaking the truth the way Mike Blake does, that's the simplest thing to do, to try to honor the privilege you've been given. So I got to show up, even if I didn't have a home in Harlem or I didn't work here. I'm with this guy because, and this is what makes him very special, besides being smart, being a problem solver and an innovator, a person who gets things done because he doesn't throw anybody away. He works with people, meets them where they are. But the reason that I really stand with him all the time is that Mike loves people. I don't mean like, I want to have a good time. He values people. He sees his humanity allows him to see their worth, and that's reflected back on him. And you can't be a public servant. By the way, there's a chip in his head that says service in all capital letters. But you can't be a public servant if you don't love the people that you're meant to be in service to. And so besides being all of that, bringing all that to the table of being a fixer, he loves people. So he's not a politician in that way. He is an organizer. He is an organizer of neighbors and communities.
Now, Michael, one of the strengths I've always thought about you when you come by the show is your clarity of message, right? I don't feel like a lot of politicians have that strength. They come in and what they're trying to say is muddled with, emotional words and these kind of, heady thoughts. You're very logical. Here's the way this works. Here's why I feel this way. Here's the way it's going to benefit people. I know that was your strength when you were assemblyman. That worked great for people in the Bronx. How's that being received now that you're running for an office that is about bringing people together, no matter what side of the party lines are on, no matter what economic bracket? How's it working?
I think we're giving people the clearest message of why we want to be public advocate. And I say, I'm running for jobs and justice for the people. And that means if you have a job, wonderful. You may need a second job, and you may need higher wages. Criminal justice. We should be building schools, not jails. We shouldn't be out here just talking about closing Rikers if you're not focused on speedy trial and bail reform. When you talk about heat and hot water and housing, how do you keep someone in Southeast clean to keep their home while someone's dealing with public housing in the Bronx, while someone else is trying to figure out how I make ends meet with my landlord? So for me, at the end of the day, you may not know what the issue is while you're involved and what's going on in your life, but you got to know someone's going to fight for you. And that's the reason I want to be very clear about jobs and justice, because that can relate to everybody. Everybody wants to have a good paying job to be able to help themselves, and everybody should feel like things are right. And at the end of the day, this is a position that is, wide ranging and across the city. And we're seeing it. When I'm in Staten Island, they're talking about how do we get the ferry to connect from the South Island to the rest of the city because we feel disconnected. When I'm out in Brooklyn, they care about moratorium on third-party transfers because people have been taking their properties and flipping these properties. We go out to Southeast Queens, they're like, why is no one talking about deed theft? And we've been losing our homes. In Harlem, where gentrification has been impacting people all across the board, they want to care about rent stabilization. Up in the Bronx, there's a lot of concern about the barge being there and Rikers. So everybody's like, well, we have our own different things, but we all want justice. So, this is the kind of question of if you're going to be someone running for public advocate, you got to be serious about this. Mm-hmm. So there's a federal component, which is no different than what happened with the shutdown, where we put in legislation to say every federal employee, not just the furloughed ones, but the contractors, need to get back pay. Because people don't realize this. When they shut down the government,
that's right.
If you're a contractor, a security guard, you didn't get back pay. So those pieces are all connected. But then on the city and state level, then we also got to ask ourselves, and this is why I go back to the broader conversation around criminal justice. Don't talk to me about trying to close Rikers unless you're going to get serious about bail reform.
That's right.
And speedy trial and open discovery. Because if you're not fixing the root cause, we just playing on the edges.
Rikers is overcrowded and just a terrible place because you got people just sitting there for years who can't even get through the system.
When more than 80% of people are at Rikers because they can't afford bail.
Now, Cuomo's talking about the bail thing, right?
Talking about it, but we got to make some things happen. And then,
Now, I'm not a Cuomo fan because I think he's a Republican in disguise, which is fine if that's who you are. But there's a lot of people in New York State, in my opinion.
Say how you really feel.
Nah, New York State is a bunch of liars. Like it's a fraud, right? Like the state likes to act like it's liberal. It's not a liberal place. We have the most segregated school system in the country. Right? We have it's racist here. Right, it's very segregated, and so everybody hides behind this kind of liberal guise of like, no, I want change too. But meanwhile, they don't want to put their bank accounts in jeopardy. They don't want to get active in communities. They don't want to create jobs. Right, it's not happening. When the new money is made for the recreational marijuana, how are you going to make sure that that money goes to the communities that were most affected?
Well, the first thing that has to happen is that
by drug laws.
Of course, the dispensaries have to be minority women-owned businesses, right? Like, you're not going to make the money off the backs of black and brown folk, and you're not going to have people actually running this. But I think you separately have to have true decriminalization of marijuana. Because if you say, let's just have more weed out there, but you're not saying we're not going to change what's going on with decriminalization, you're playing the game. Because more folks are going to get locked up and get hemmed up in the way they shouldn't be. But I think the broader aspect is we could talk about the money that's coming in, but how do we put it towards the problems in the first place, right? You got to make sure, how do you make sure that someone has a chance on the front end? So if we were helping with the schools, if we were helping with jobs, if we were helping with going on community centers, then you're not worried about, okay, what's going on when it comes to marijuana. And so to me, it can't just be around one of the ideas one of our opponents said of, let's have weed for rails. Come on, man.
What is that?
Weed for rails.
What does that mean?
Oh, that was where they was trying to run the scam that the MTA was going to benefit.
They were going to take money at MTA. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, we talked about it on the radio. I was like, yo, if we run that scam,
I mean,
everybody's being taken.
I mean, like, what are we talking about?
To the wash. Yeah.
So I think if you're going to have the revenue come in, we got to make sure it's actually helping our communities.
That's right.
On the front end. But even before that, we got to make sure that minority women-owned businesses are the ones getting these deals. And that's for everything.
Yeah.
We can't keep playing on the edges saying we're going to change some things on the back end, but we're actually not helping
So
people.
ideally, you would look for people who are already business owners to now participate in this process or you would allow new business owners? Because like in Washington State, and I've watched this because I knew it was going to, get popular around the country. In Washington State, it was like everybody you get a business and you get a business. This one gets a business. Everybody get a business. These are businesses they never ran businesses before. So what ultimately, after a year and change, the businesses go belly up. Now you have these licenses, and who scoops down and pays you for your license? Yeah. Big corporations, they bundle it up, and it basically ends up where it was or would have been if they just let big corporations come in the first place.
But you got to make sure new people get in the game. Like, if we're not opening the doors for new entrepreneurs to get in, you're just having a continual cycle of poverty.
That's right. But it also sounds like you're saying business development too, to teach people actually how to run a business.
Oh, you have to. I mean, look, we have this with the Involve program. It used to be the American Entrepreneurship Award. We're the second place in the country that received this. Whether it be Mott Haven, Bar and Grill, and other businesses on the block. Bistro in the South Bronx. You got to show people how to get to the next level. And it's access to capital. It's understanding the language of money. When we did Project Destin, we were talking to young people in our district. Yeah, we want you to be homeowners. We want you to understand real estate, but you got to understand the language of the game. Because if you don't understand the language of the game, people are going to play you. And so, business development is part of this, but we just can't have the bright, shiny lights. We got to show people how they're going to get there.
That's right. Are you a fan of this Amazon deal?
Nope.
Long Island City?
So it's a sham. So let's game this out. I was one of the several who was saying, let's have an opening conversation about Amazon.
That's right.
The governor and the mayor agreed to a deal, jumped over, in which they said in the press conference they knew that if it would have went through us, we would not have agreed to it.
That's right.
In the deal, it says in good faith about 9 times. And I've said repeatedly, I've never seen a deal around economics.
You don't do contracts like that.
Doesn't really work that way.
Contract.
Never seems to work out
You
ever.
never trust a corporation.
In good faith, right?
That don't work.
They said we're going to help everybody living in public housing, especially in Queensbridge houses. But then they announced last week that they had 30 jobs going to public housing. Craziness.
30.
30. They said it's going to be $125,000 in average wages. There's no guarantee on local hiring. There's no guarantee on women-owned business. There's no guarantee on minority-owned businesses. What is happening right now is nonsense. And so if you actually are making sure New Yorkers are getting these deals, getting these jobs, getting the training, and to the previous question, how do you help someone not just for today and tomorrow, then that's a different conversation. But to say we're going to give $3 billion to the richest man in the world for an investment so he can have a heliport pad, which one of the parts of the deal, which is also crazy, is that he can have a helicopter fly in 3 times every 3 days. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, so he's sending $3 billion to Amazon as opposed to $3 billion to schools, $3 billion to public housing, $3 billion to public transportation. That comes to the consciousness of who we are. And when we were at the White House, President Obama, Vice President Biden said this all the time. A budget shows someone's values. So you got to ask yourself, if you're fine with this current deal, you are saying you are fine with people not having heat and hot water.
Now, who do you think, when you look at this Amazon deal, who are you most disappointed in? De Blasio or Cuomo?
Both.
I'm more disappointed in de Blasio, even though I knew this was going to happen regardless. Because I feel like de Blasio did it to help Cuomo, to help the tax, state tax, et cetera, in exchange for Cuomo making it appear like the MTA was going to benefit, local jobs was going to benefit, et cetera, et cetera.
And then you still have an MTA that's talking about they want to raise your fares and they can't get things to work on time.
That's right.
And as I was on my way down here, the 2 train had to pick up because the 1 train had delays. They don't have fair fares. I mean, it's just kind of a game. And that's
you don't
why
even have wheelchair accessible train stations.
Here and there, Laura. Come on.
Have you been to the Bronx?
Every once in a while. Except poor neighborhoods.
Except poor neighborhoods. I'm just saying, I mean.
Nice neighborhoods, they got them.
The sister that died a week ago, right?
That's horrible.
25% of train stations around the city have elevators. Only 40% of those even work.
How much of this is holding the MTA accountable? How much of this is unions? How much of this is City Hall? Right? Because I definitely hear people talking about, and especially our callers are calling and like, look, I want my raise, my union dues, my this, my that. I'm doing my part. I deserve my raise. And then you got the MTA having to pay more out to the union. The MTA wants to raise fares because people at the top don't want to take pay cuts. There's only so much money to go around.
You got to hold MTA accountable, which is one of the reasons why I said the public advocate should be on the MTA board. I think the unions, TWU, transit workers, they absolutely should get wages and help them. But the reality is, it doesn't make sense that we're telling New Yorkers, we're going to raise your fares on a system that's not working.
But here's where I call all politicians bluff. Everyone wants to have the conversation about better paying jobs, right? Mm-hmm. Better wages, mm-hmm. But not where the money's actually coming from. And the money always falls back on the regular, everyday person. The prices of goods goes up. The executives don't take pay cuts. The stock market, they're absolutely not going to back off their money. You know what I'm saying?
And so
we're in the margin.
Yep.
The money always falls back on the consumer.
Unless you have a politician like Michael Blake who actually understands the economics of it. So we should take away the tax credits from landlords of J51 tax credits that are not implementing rent stabilization, so you put money back in the system. Or you can look at the vacant plots of land in New York City and you build market rate there, so you put the money back into public housing. Or you put a millionaire's tax so you actually have the opportunity to create more revenue. The money can be generated. There's a clear approach on how to do that. This is a leadership conversation. Yeah. And you got a lot of folks that are talking a good game who don't understand how do you make these things happen. And so if we want to figure out how you get more revenue, all right, what's going on in LaGuardia and JFK? You going to have expansion there? How do you have guarantees so that minority women-owned businesses get these jobs, get these contracts, grow the wealth? How do we find the opportunities to be able to build and build responsibly? You want to build affordable housing? Great. I'll give you a tax credit if you're doing real affordable housing. You can prove that. Then I'll allow you to get the air rights. You get the air rights, everybody wins. There's ways to do this. But if people are beholden to the systems that have been a part of the problems for years, they're not going to be the ones that fix it.
Michael Blake, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Alfre, you are the voice of Sarabi in the new Lion King.
I am.
Have you cut your voice parts yet? Well, because, see, I wasn't going to say, I figured if I said, is the movie finished? What do we know? But I figured if you cut your voice parts, I know they said, what is it, spring 2019 was supposed to be?
I think so.
Or is it summer? This isn't the voice I use, by the way. Like I said, I came out of the forest where I get rained on every day.
That's
and
fine.
I came here husky, so don't be chased away.
You're
This
good.
is
You're good.
this
You're
is
good.
not Sarabi's voice.
I'm good with this voice too, though. This voice is, I love it.
Yes, we are. we are still
Working.
It'll be there. It'll
I'm
be
sure
there.
Disney. I mean,
and
it's gonna
it
hit
is.
the
Oh
deadline.
my goodness! It is so. I am so impressed. I'm so excited. I know that I'm like excited like a kid.
Now, we saw the trailer's incredible. Everybody saw the trailer, right? If you haven't, go look for it. You know, I guess, do you get to see any of the other actors, or do you just cut your parts? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, you do. You're on your own with Favreau.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you watch as little lines, images turn into are generated into live action.
Right. So when you see it,
creatures.
it's like sketches almost. It's not actually the.
Well, I watch it evolve, and I watch other people evolve, and you hear. It's sort of like which comes first, the chicken or the egg.
Got it.
Okay.
It's you get some lines. They shoot you doing the lines. They kind of move things around. Everything happens at once. It's
awesome.
magic.
It's super. Have you done any other animation, or
Yes.
which other ones?
Someone will have to remind me, but I know I can. Right now, I can remember Dinosaur. I did Dinosaur.
Okay.
And that was the name of it. Yeah. Yeah, and it was. I do so much. I forget what I
know,
do.
I know.
But I've done. This is probably my third or fourth one.
So for an actor, right? Hollywood's changed a lot, right? You have. I mean, you're on. You do episodic things. You do movies.
Well.
You do a lot, right? So, has being a part of animation kind of changed things for an actor, right? Because that's kind of opened up a new door for a lot of actors. Where
Well, this is the thing. What I went to LA to do was to be a film actor, because those paths were blocked for me. It really allowed me the space to understand that I was a storyteller and have acting will travel. What I wanted to do was to reach people with stories in the tradition of our griots, uplifting people's lives and thought by, giving them the lore. So I didn't necessarily choose to do all those different things, but because I didn't know it was possible. But the blessing in that is I got to have I'm having still a very varied and eventful career.
right.
So I will do anything that reaches my viewer, my audience. So yeah.
Are you while looking around at all of the other television and film that's now, because you got Netflix, you got Hulu, you mentioned you're doing Apple and working on something that's going to come out through their platform, or maybe I should say through our platform.
I was about to say,
I work at Apple too. But are you so many opportunities for Black women, so many opportunities for Black actors, directors. I mean, so much. It feels like.
Well, you know what? The truth is, there's been such a dearth that two things feels like a holiday.
Okay.
So we have a long, long, long way to
Love
go.
that perspective.
And we're just awakening. We're just starting, to move into a realm where the stories are told because that is the most dynamic story, and these are the most dynamic people to tell it. That doesn't even speak to all of our brown sisters and brothers, all of our Asian sisters and brothers, all of our Native sisters and brothers. So, I mean, you think we have been
Right.
missing in the frame. We haven't been at the center of the frame, but they needed us around the edges to decorate the frame. But the rest of the people, haven't even come into the building.
That's right.
So we're watching that. But one thing I want to tell you about, and just because you're a thoughtful group, is I have a film that just won the grand jury prize at Sundance that we will be talking about in the coming months. It's called Clemency.
Yep.
And Chinoya Chukwu directed it, and it's about a death row warden that I play, and it is a film that I think will kickstart a conversation that we have not had. We go back and forth between the pro capital punishment and death penalty or against it, and trying to save lives, most of us outside of prisons, every few months. But we've never looked at the lives of the people that we charge with carrying out taking of lives.
Wow, yes.
And
wow.
the effect on them.
Yeah, the closest
Clemency.
thing. The closest thing that I can think of was like the Green Mile. That's the closest thing.
It's a long way from the Green Mile.
Yeah,
It's a long way, right? How'd you feel about State of the Union last night, Michael Blake?
I did not watch 1 second of it
Why?
because I'm not going to support a racist, sexist demagogue.
I like it.
I mean, you're with us. Neither do we.
I saw it. It was painful.
How have you heard anything about it?
That there was not one mention of Puerto Rico, that we are essentially going towards a shutdown again because there was no real plan around that. The playing on the edges of North Korea. I mean, look, you got a criminal clown sitting in the White House, who his whole vision is this is a big TV show, and people have to appreciate, if something doesn't happen in the next week and few days, we could have a shutdown again because of absolute lack of leadership. So, all that we continue to hear, and I've continued to hear, is nothing actually moving the country forward was being talked about. Mm-hmm. It was him doubling down on his base, that's all he cares about.
I felt like he wasn't using the word wall a lot. I listened to some audio clips. He was using barrier. He was using, secure the borders, beautiful, see-through. It's not a concrete wall because, he ran on the wall thing.
Of course.
Right? That was a part of his thing.
And that Mexico was going to pay for it. If he can get some sort of barrier or money towards that, immediately following that, he could tell his base, see, I told you it would get done, as he goes and runs, attempts to run for the White House. That's it. And I think it is difficult for anyone to push back on a conversation around border security and defense, right? Like they going to get caught up in that game. So he's pretty much like, let me say something to try to get myself a win. At the end of the day, he kept talking about he's going to get you a wall. Ain't going to get you no wall.
And it's pathological, though, that he keeps just dragging it out, starting to talk about painting the fence that's already there. I mean, there's some mental issues there.
We knew this, but our system, allowed something like this to take place. Let's not act like this just happened, right?
I think
our culture and our system allowed this to take place.
I also think a lot of people thought there was no way he was going to win.
We didn't take it serious.
We didn't take him seriously.
I'm one of them.
Right? And I think you're in a space of, when he's talking about he may declare a national emergency for a wall, but you got kids being separated, which, by the way, a lot of those kids that were being separated were sent to New York and sent to the Bronx, right? It wasn't just
America stole babies from families.
Plain and simple.
Yeah,
Plain
we
and
just
simple.
talked
Our
about it
country
on
stole
our show.
babies.
And so, look, he hopefully now people are paying attention. We saw that in 2018. We're starting to see people more engaged. I don't think we're going to be asleep at the switch this time watching this foolishness.
How much of Trump being in office is Democrats' fault?
I think we have to be honest that we did not all organize in the way we needed to. And we didn't talk to people. You asked me about message earlier, right? Like, we didn't talk and break things down in a real relatable way. We were just like, people won't believe this. As opposed to folks like, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get my job.
Well, and Hillary didn't go to Michigan. She didn't go to Wisconsin.
Pennsylvania. But, now I'm one of the vice chairs of the Democratic Party now to help turn that around. I wasn't there before. And there were several of us that just got elected to turn this thing around. We got to be real plain with people. Folks are like, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to eat today, how I'm going to pay my bills. I got someone in my family got locked up. What you doing for me on that? Like, that's what people wanted to know and hear.
I mean,
and we
that's
have
why
to be
I
more
asked you,
comfortable.
because I know you're a vice chair, so I'm gonna see how they.
Well,
they feel about you after you leave this interview.
I became elected a vice chair after the election to make things happen. But I mean, that's the thing. We can't continue to be shy about talking bluntly on the issues, right? Like, if folks are playing a racist game, just call it what it is. Don't be like, well, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to make ends meet. No, people don't want to hear that. At the end of the day, what's going on in MDC Brooklyn is happening because you have a federal administration that believes it's okay to turn off heat on people.
Yep.
What happened at the airports is because you have an administration that believes it's more important to try to build a wall than people getting their checks. And we have to be real direct about it. Trump and the Republicans thought that's okay. But then the flip side of it is we got to say, here's what we're doing. Right? So I said, if I get elected public advocate, which I do think this is going to happen February 26th, that we should not have any New York City money going to any company to contract the wall. We should ban that happening. And the fact that Trump is saying now he's talking to contractors, perfect reason to go after that. We should ask ourselves what's going on when it comes to housing. When you have Ben Carson and others saying they need a federal monitor, I do believe we need a federal monitor because you can't trust what's going on at NYCHA. But you can't turn this over to the federal government.
No.
Absolutely.
Anything local that gets turned over to the federal government will fail.
Gone.
Done.
Gone. Has not worked, won't work.
NYCHA will never be for the people from here on out. Okay. I don't believe that with federal government monitoring our inability to build a staff and people that's trustworthy here. When is a time that we trusted what was going on in NYCHA?
Well, I think the second part of what you said is the key. There has to be a cleaning house of the staff that's there that have been a part of this. The amount of staff that lied about what was going on and did nothing to protect their own jobs have no business being there.
All of them are accountable.
And so, including the mayor. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you knew what was happening and you let it go, you should be gone.
He took responsibility when he was here. Because I straight up asked him, I said, this is your fault, right? He was like, ultimately, yeah, because these people work for me. And
that's really great because when I asked him these questions, he said, he didn't want to get in a debate club.
Well, yeah, but that's political. When I have him up here, I'm like, De Blas, come on, you fumbled it, B. What's happening? You fumbled this, man. Like, you're the boss. You fumbled, So I guess before we let you go, first of all, I appreciate your candor. Are there any candidates running right now that threw their hat in the ring for a Democrat president that you like? Or that you think can win? Let me say it that way. That you think can win. Who do you think can win?
Several of them.
It's not an endorsement.
I'm a vice chair of the National Party. You trying to get me to say names? What you doing? Can we stay focused on the February 26th election in New York City of Michael Blake, the public advocate?
Come on. All right, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Do you think the Democrats are too moderate in their positioning as we head into our next presidential run?
I don't think so. I think in different parts of the country, right, there's different places that you play in. But I think what we get caught up in is people not being genuine about what they actually are feeling because they feel like they're trying to placate to a base. So if you see something is wrong, describe how wrong it is. Don't be like, well, I'm just going to try to play on the edges. Which we know Trump and Pence, which I actually think Pence is worse than him because I think Pence actually believes this stuff. Mm-hmm. They are not going to play on the edges. So yeah, in some spots, yes. I think folks overthink things, but I don't think it's moderation across the board. We're going to be more progressive on the coast than we would be in the Midwest. I think that's just to be expected. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't care about the similar kind of things and talk about it in that same way. I'm like, if you are upset about a black man being shot and killed and cops not doing anything against them, you should have that same anger when they talk about a racist wall and that same anger when they have an unconstitutional travel ban against Muslims. Period. Don't matter where you at, you should feel that same
People have
feeling.
a problem empathizing with other people's struggles.
And they don't want to be real, exactly, with other people's struggles.
Yeah.
Which is why, and we did an event we had Harlem and Queens with Alfre. People were drawn to her, but the broader piece of it is like, they felt like, okay, I can have a conversation about what's going on in my life. Mm-hmm. Which that's what we got to get better at.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Michael Blake. You know Alfre Woodard. Thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you.
Michael, good luck.
Thank you.
I like what I'm hearing.
February 26th.
You running for mayor, huh? Pretty soon. Not this time, but.
Oh, my God. Ebro.
I see it.
I
see it.
February 26th.
De Blasio was a public advocate.
Step by step.
Tish's attorney general.
Maybe
there's other things.
She might run for mayor, too.
Maybe there's other things other than mayor. Can you say focus on public advocate?
Okay. Public advocate, Michael Blake. When do we vote again?
February 26th, BlakeForNYC.com. Blake for NYC on social media. Follow us.
Thank you.